Now, you actually have a master's degree in computer and information technology from the prestigious University of Pennsylvania. And so you do have some computer science background. How is that helpful for you as a data scientist, even though right now you aren't involved as often with the machine learning engineering yourself?
Yeah, so it was a computer science master's degree. At that time, I just like pretty much didn't know what to do with myself. So if I figured if I get a computer science master's degree, then probably do whatever, which was actually a good choice. I'm like, good job, past Tina.
It is a really good choice. I mean, I say this on episodes all the time, but if you want to be super employable and have your pick of whatever kinds of problems and industries you want to be working in, even what kind of work schedule you want to have, specialize in computer science. And even for being a data scientist, which I'm sure Tina can elaborate on more, so many things that you do as a data scientist can be made easier by that computer science background.
Yep, exactly. So, computer science actually helps me out a lot. Like, don't tell anyone. I didn't actually get any official training in data science. Most of it is self-taught. But yeah, having that CS background is super helpful because, as you were saying earlier, John, like you would sometimes be like working through a math problem and then you would kind of just test it out, right? So from a CS perspective, a lot of machine learning nowadays is quite automated. So you can actually just call it and play around with it and build stuff with it, even though you don't really know what's happening under the hood. So that's been really helpful in terms of me learning specific things. So I would start implementing things and then I would start like building out smaller versions of it and learning very quickly. Also, the CS degree, it's very problem solving based because I think what a lot of computer science is like if you want to specifically say like software engineering for example, which is technically what most of my peers ended up doing. It's like you have a problem and you have no idea how to do it, and then you just kind of like figure it out and then you get like cryptic things and then you fix it. So what you learn is a lot of patience, and that has been very helpful, instead of just like rage quitting. So I would attribute that to my computer science degree because I was definitely a lot less patient before, but I kind of what is that called, how should I say it, got like my ego beaten up from doing a CS masters. So now I'm just like, oh, I have no idea what's happening, but that's fine.
Nice. It's great to hear that. That's such a candid way of describing what it's like to be a software developer or a data scientist most of the time, that you don't really understand what the problems are, and you're constantly every day as a data scientist or a software developer, you're getting problems thrown at you where you don't understand maybe even the question that's being asked of you by a person, or the question that's being presented to you by some data or some error. And then through Stack Overflow and through time and patience, and by figuring out how to make your way through the stack to where the problem is, and kind of there's a lot of like working forwards, working backwards. You start with this big nebulous problem, and then you just try to chip away at it until you figure out, okay, it's got to be this line of code. Like
Mhm.
this is where the mistake must be, and then often that can be the most frustrating part. So I have dozens of times in my career, I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm 100% sure the problem must be this line of code, but this line of code is perfect. And so somehow the computer is just not doing the command. It's like it's doing the opposite of what it should be doing somehow. Like there's like a flipped bit that just happened randomly somewhere. But then somehow, like an hour later, you're like, how did I miss that? Yeah, that is definitely a problem in this line of code. Um, so
Another,
yeah.
sorry, another thing I learned from computer science is that if you don't know what's happening, just turn it on and off. If you just turn it on and off, maybe it'll work. And that actually helps a lot of times.
Yep. Yeah. The old off and on, definitely a tried and true computer science trick. Um, that must be like maybe a first year grad student course at University of Pennsylvania. The old off and on 501.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like that's like every single course, especially when you're dealing with hardware and you don't know what's happening. Like you just literally just turn it on and off repeatedly until it works.